last night, the big rally took place at Madison Square Garden. It's all about the optics. Donald Trump's not winning New York, but packing the world's most famous arena in the bluest city of the country does have value to it that can extend beyond New York City itself. And we'll talk more about it here coming up on KCMO. But we spent a lot of time discussing how there's this massive gender gap right now in American politics. Whatever poll you look at, you see guys breaking 20, 30 points for Donald Trump. You see women breaking 15 to 20 points, give or take, for Kamala Harris. Now, women don't need to break for Kamala Harris as large as men need to break for Donald Trump because women are more likely to vote than men. That's been true for multiple election cycles in a row now. But Trump's going to do historic numbers with men in this cycle. Democratic Party knows it has to close the gap with men. In fact, there was a hot mic moment that got caught over the weekend between Kamala Harris and Gretchen Whitmer, the governor of Michigan, where Whitmer says we're behind with men. And then Kamala starts laughing and cackling and saying like, oh, wait, we got microphones around here. And it was kind of awkward. But listen, they're saying the quiet part out loud, right? So what do? What's the answer? Well, the answer is to not reduce men to video gaming, porn-addicted weirdos. And that's in part what they're doing here. Over the weekend, and we just played this clip before the top of the hour, you had Tim Walz playing Madden against AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, the very progressive congresswoman from New York. Yeah, that's what they want. Let's watch Tim Walz call a halfback dive on 2nd and 9 with the Minnesota Vikings on Madden while the NFL's going on. Great idea. Outstanding plan. Let's go up against the NFL with a live stream of AOC and Tiananmen Tim playing Madden. Definitely what the dudes want. So there was that was kind of clunky. But even worse, this new ad that is now circulating online and in certain swing states, it's paid for by a Democratic PAC. And I'm going to set up the commercial by telling you basically what it is. It's an ad of a young man pleasuring himself on a couch. And then an old white guy who's supposed to be a Republican politician shows up. And here's how it sounds.
Oh! Sorry, you can't do that.
What the hell, man? How'd you get in here?
I'm your Republican congressman. Now that we're in charge, we're banning porn nationwide.
You can't tell me what to do. Get out of my bedroom, you creep.
I won the last election, so it's my decision. I'm just gonna watch and make sure you don't finish illegally.
So basically, what they view young men as is guys who just want to sit on their couch and play video games and watch porn. I can't imagine why they're not connecting. I can't imagine why they're having trouble reaching that constituency. First off, nobody believes that a politician is going to go out there and ban that stuff tomorrow. I don't know wwhere that narrative even comes from. But we know that
blender. I'm telling you, you throw stuff in the blender.
You throw stuff in the blender and out pops that one today, right?
Yeah.
No, you're right. That may be the case. But we know politicians fearmonger across the political aisle, and they fib and they make things more extreme than they probably are. But this is just next level bizarre. And if you're struggling with that segment, young men, and you say, how do we reach them? What do we do? Well, they don't care about the economy or jobs or the fact that they have basically been talked down to for an entire generation. What they really care about is ease of access to pornography on their phones. Well, maybe that's why you're struggling, because that's all you view them as. Young men are in crisis in this country more than young women. And I say this as somebody who has 3 daughters. But what you've seen now in America is we've swung the pendulum way too far in the other direction. We used to be in a place where it was like, hey, we want young men and young women to pursue what they want to pursue, be what they want to be academically, go do what they want to do in their lives professionally, and that's great. And that was a noble message, and that was a noble movement. But it didn't need to come at the expense of young men. It wasn't an either-or proposition. That's what it turned into. And now what you're seeing is that young women go to college at a much higher rate. They graduate at a much higher rate. They're better in school at a much higher rate. And young men are struggling. You're seeing mental health crisis increase for young men left and right. Suicides go up. Overdoses going up. Young men are in crisis. Young men are growing up later. They're living at home longer. They're getting married later. They're not having kids as early. All these things are happening today with young men. And part of it, of course, as always, is their own fault. Part of it is poor parenting. Maybe a small part of it is economics and how things are working out right now in this country or not working out for working class men in particular all over America. But if they think the answer is just to be like, well, we'll make sure you can watch a lot of porn, I'm not sure that's going to connect like you think it's going to connect. Young men have economic goals. They have dreams. Most guys, normal guys, want to have a stable love life and get married and have children and live the life that many of them grew up with. But many of them feel like that's also unattainable in today's America, in this economic climate. And whether it's because of that, whether it's because, yes, Donald Trump is by far the more macho candidate, not that that's very hard to do in this race. He obviously appeals to many on the macho man front. That's why we like to play the song once in a while as well. Shout out to the Village People. But it's so much more than what they're reducing young men to. And then you had Michelle Obama over the weekend. She was giving a speech. They broke her out here for the last couple of weeks of the election. And she basically said this to young men and why men need to get out there and vote for Kamala Harris.
So to the men who love us, let me just try to paint a picture.
White dudes for Harris in the house.
What it will feel like if America, the wealthiest nation on earth, keeps revoking basic care from its women, and how it will affect every single woman in your life. Your girlfriend could be the one in legal jeopardy if she needs a pill from out of state or overseas, or if she has to travel across state lines because the local clinic closed up. Your wife or mother could be the ones at higher risk of dying from undiagnosed cervical cancer because they have no access to regular gynecological care. Your daughter could be the one too terrified to call the doctor if she's bleeding during an unexpected pregnancy.
Yeah, the old, hey guys, we might have sold your jobs out. We might have hollowed out the working class economy in this country, but vote for us because that way you support abortion so you can unfortunately do awful things to unborn children when it's not convenient for you. It's a heck of a closing pitch. And then there was this.
And I am asking y'all from the core of my being to take our lives seriously. Please. Do not.
Yeah, America is once again disappointing Michelle Obama. I'd hate to disappoint Michelle Obama, wouldn't you? The amazing part is there are many who shared that over the weekend and acted like it was some kind of an amazing pitch and evidence of good politicking. And frankly, you couldn't ask for a better clip to explain why Donald Trump is dominating with men. Men are being told to basically subordinate their pressing concerns with made-up ones that appeal to rich, woke, white women. That's what they're being asked to do. And basically, if you don't agree with them, they're going to call you toxic, sexist, racist, misogynistic.
I find it interesting she's addressing us. Who is us? What he's going to do to us. No, she doesn't mean you. You're not included as part of the listening audience. She means her and Barack. He's after you two, not the rest of us.
No.
So when she's using the word us, don't think of it as a collective we, a royal we. She's talking about it herself.
That is also true here in this clip. And it's showing a massive disconnect in terms of how they reach out to men. and how this is not something that just happened overnight. It's happened for the better part of 10 years. And it's gotten worse and worse and worse. And that's why you're seeing this massive gender gap as we head down the home stretch of this election. I'll ask Guy Benson about that coming up in 20 minutes, our new afternoon host, part of the Fox News radio family. He took over the 3 to 5 slot a couple of weeks ago here on 95.7 FM KCMO Talk Radio, 913-408-7957. Especially when it comes to men in this audience, but women as well. I mean, you see it with the men in your lives. Why are we at where we're at when it comes to the gender gap in this country? 913-408-7957. We haven't had a lot of time for you yet this morning because I got like 8 hours of content to fit into 4 hours. How do you explain the gender gap? What's the main driver of it? 913-408-7957. I want to kick this off with you here on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM on a Monday. This comes after there are many efforts here over the final 9-10 days of the election cycle from Kamala Harris's campaign to get men to vote for her. And it feels fruitless to me. The ads are disgraceful. I played the one ad that you just heard before the break, and it's basically an ad geared towards young men saying, hey, vote for us. We'll let you watch as much porn as you want.
Oh!
Sorry, you can't do that.
What the hell, man? How'd you get in here?
I'm your Republican congressman. Now that we're in charge, we're banning porn nationwide.
You can't tell me what to do. Get out of my bedroom, you creep!
I won the last election, so it's my decision. I'm just going to watch and make sure you don't finish illegally.
It's gross. It's distasteful. It's insulting to young men to think that this is, first off, an issue that is going to drive them to the polls. And it also tells you exactly why they're struggling with that demographic. 913-408-7957. Let's start in Overland Park. That's where Alex is this morning. Alex, you're on KCMO. Good morning.
Hey, good morning, Pete. So a couple of points. One was around 10 years ago or so, I was in Target with my kids, and I have a daughter and 2 sons. And there was a sign kind of in the business office supply section that said, the future is female. And it was kind of like a placard you put on your desk. And it had a bunch of other kind of items that had that kind of messaging on it. And I'm not a real, let me go talk to the manager kind of person, but I did. And I told her, I said, I understand you're not in charge of who decides to put what out or what Target manufactures or purchases. But I said, I want you to think about what this message says to each little boy or young man that walks by it. Said, if they see a sign that says the future is female, how in the world can they feel like they are part of the future at all? And she kind of looked at me and she said, well, I have 5 daughters. I guess I never thought of it that way. I said, okay, then think if we had a sign out that said the future is male. And I said, honestly, put any, male, female, white, whatever you want to put on there. I said, it's ridiculous. And I was very proud because the next week I went back to that section and that stuff was gone. It still had kind of girl boss vibes and all that, but it didn't have things like the future is female up there anymore. And I'm sure my kids were horrified. But the second point I wanted to make was this goes back many generations, back to when the abortion was legalized. Mm-hmm. And when My Body, My Choice became the messaging for abortion, men were intentionally pushed out of the discussion. So over all this generation, now we have lots and lots of babies born to single moms. We have dads aren't stepping up to be parents. We have moms who are having to financially raise their kids on their own because My Body, My Choice told men that none of the reproductive conversation you can be a part of. Instead, women back in the 50s and 60s could have said, listen, if I get pregnant, we're a team, and you're in this with me. And that's not the messaging that was ever put up. So you wonder how we got here. It's because women have actually, probably in a moment, thought they were doing a good thing, but they actually undermined their own future and success with this messaging.
Thank you, Alex. Excellent points. And yes, we've all been there when mom tries to make a point at some store and mom embarrasses the kids, but you did the right thing there, and it appears to have worked out as well all those years ago. So you keep doing that. And she's absolutely right. The future is not women. The future is not men. The future is not white. The future is not black. The future is hopefully competent Americans busting their butts of both genders. Yes, there's only two, of all races, all backgrounds, all cultures. It's not picking somebody based on their gender, their race, their sex. That's something we used to call illegal in America, and apparently it no longer is, at least in some estimations. Wes in Gladstone on KCMO. Go ahead, Wes.
Yeah, Pete, hey, real quick, abortion is for men. So when guys like Doug Emhoff get the nanny pregnant, they can pay for the abortion, okay?
Okay.
Pete,
All right.
it's always been like that, man. It's always been for men. I'm sorry. You'll never change my mind. But the real reason I called was that ad that you played about you're going to get to watch pornography if she's elected. That is sick, man. I mean, just when you think how low can they go, they find a way, man. I mean, that is disturbing.
Yeah. Hey, man, the ad's out there, and I'll throw it. Thank you, Wes. I'll reshare it to X if anybody really wants to see it with their own two eyes. Because, yeah, it's a disturbing ad, but it's even more disturbing that they think that's an ad that young men are going to see and they're going to resonate with, and they're going to say, well, I got to vote for her because I got to watch porn. It's just gross. And it really diminishes the male in today's society. And then they wonder why they're losing with that demographic. I can't imagine why.